Okay, so good morning, everybody. Can our panelists please turn their microphones and cameras on while the attendees are getting loaded up? We've got a good amount of people here this morning who've got away from the rain from yesterday, just as we all thought we could go out. We then realised we had to take umbrellas with us. And so I'd like to welcome everybody to this Branduin Fit to Bid webinar, courtesy of Hounslow Chamber of Commerce and Hounslow Council. This is going to be the first webinar in a series that's going to go through the next few weeks and through to the end of June. We're honoured to have with us this morning Kate Bull and Daniel Austin from Hounslow Council, and also Feroz Ghazi, ex-Heathrow Airport, and now a Tier 1 and Tier 2 supplier to Heathrow to talk about supply chains. Nauza is going to wrap things up or do the middle part of the section from Branduin, their new Managing Director. We're going through a series of challenges reopening up our economy at the moment, and we are delighted that Hounslow Council has funded a series of webinars to help our business in this borough get out, get moving and get going, and help us survive opening up after this terrible pandemic we've all been through. We're going to have some presentations from them this morning talking about how you can engage with Hounslow Council and be part of their supply chain, and also afterwards how you can engage with Heathrow Airport, who between the two of them are the two biggest supply chains in perhaps West London. So without further ado, perhaps I can pass over to Kate to say a few words and then introduce Daniel Austin from her team. Over to you, Kate.
Thanks, Alan. Yeah, we are absolutely delighted to be sponsoring Hanso's Innovate and Grow programme for the summer. It's fantastic. As Alan said, the pandemic's caused the biggest disruption to our social and economic life that most of us will have ever experienced. And so through that, the borough's recovery plan, Hounslow Together, we've put together a package of projects and solutions which we hope will support the local economy. And particularly relevant to you is the Keep It Local programme, which is all about kind of keeping the Hounslow pound, the spend in Hounslow. And I'm sure you'll hear a bit more about that later on in the seminar. But it's been a really key theme for the council about how we can really ensure that our businesses thrive during this time. We're also supporting the development of new capabilities and skills, all through these learning and training for recovery and transformation, and hopefully build resilience, in our business communities. We spent quite a lot of time listening over the last 12 months in terms of the businesses telling us about the challenges you have faced, and we're really pleased to then try and respond to that and offer things like this summer programme, the Innovate and Grow programme, and hopefully it's quite targeted in kind of supporting businesses that have been identified as most in need, and kind of the areas that businesses need additional help with. So there's 12 different programmes in the wider Innovate and Grow programme, so do check them out. But we're really pleased to be here today to talk about the Fit to Bid seminars. And with no further ado, I will hand back and let you crack on and hear some really interesting things from the speakers.
He says unmuting himself quickly. Thank you very much, Kate. So Daniel, to talk a little bit about Heathrow, to talk a little bit about Hounslow Council. In general, first of all, what is your total budget you can award contracts for on a normal year?
So our annual spend is around £170 million a year. It's slightly higher this year because of the pandemic. So we've had some extra things we've had to pay for. But generally it's around that figure, fluctuates slightly. Yeah, so 87% of our supply chain is SMEs, and that constitutes about 30% of our spend. So there's a bit of an imbalance between the number of SMEs we use and the amount of money they're actually being awarded contracts for. I've got a couple of slides. I'll bring them up.
Please do, absolutely. I think the
Numbers.
message we're trying to get out there is, if you're a local small company and you want to be part of that supply chain, listen up. This is what you need to do.
Okay, can everyone see that? Is that?
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay. So yeah, like I said, spend profile, 170 million pounds a year, and 87% of our suppliers are SMEs, which makes up a third of our spend. At the minute, 7% of that spend is with Hounslow businesses. So when the Keep It Local campaign started last summer, that figure was 3%. So we've really made good progress over it, in the first year of doing this. Doubled our spend locally. So the procurement process at Hounslow is bound by what's in our constitution and in the regulations. So this is a very brief overview of our thresholds. So up to £5,000, it's one written quote. Our commissioning teams can go direct to suppliers, get something in writing with a quote, and that's it. From £5,000 to £75,000 is a minimum of 3 written quotations, and our rules say that 2 out of those 3 should be with local suppliers where they can identify them, and that's one of the key things for us is how do we identify the local suppliers that can do that work. Quite often we'll use the chamber and we'll use West London Business and say, can you put this message out? We're looking for some people to bid. Yeah, so that's a quotation process. Above £75,000 is a competitive tendering process. So that will be an open advert. So that's available for anyone to apply for. And I'll talk about how you can see those opportunities in a second. But one thing we've put into our rules, and this came in the autumn last year, was our ability to directly award to local suppliers for contracts up to £30,000. So local meaning within Hounslow. And this is for suppliers that are new to the Hounslow supply chain. The idea behind this is quite often on slightly larger contracts than that, people want to go to businesses that they've already used to provide one of the quotes. But for up to £30,000, there's a level of comfort there that we can try new people in our supply chain for smaller projects to prove themselves, and that allows us to then build a relationship and invite that business to larger projects to bid in a competitive process, and that's worked quite well so far. Like I say, that's only been in place for 6-7 months, but it's something that certainly our commissioning teams have been keen on. The focus with our recovery plan is very much on keeping our spend local wherever we can. So this gives a straightforward route for people to do that. Just a quick view of what we measure about our local spend and local opportunities that are available. This is too small to read, but I'll just take you through it. So this goes to our members every month. So we have local registrations in the first column, and that's the growth in registrations on our procurement portal, which has gone up 21% in the last year. Opportunities available locally, so that's I think we target 80% of our opportunities to be available to local suppliers, and I think we're currently at 90%, if I can read that, 92%. So we use frameworks, which are kind of closed shops but sometimes there's specialist things we need to buy. So that makes up most of that block that aren't available openly to everyone. Contracts awarded locally. So this one is for, which period is that for? That'll be last month. So we awarded 2 contracts locally last month. And there's a breakdown of where businesses are based and things like that. The A on that column, the apprentices and training, that's more about our social value, which I'll talk a little bit about in a second. But part of our larger contracts is that we stipulate there has to be a social value outcome, and that will be training opportunities, apprenticeships, local employment, those sorts of things. And the last column is our local supply chain. So this is mainly for our construction, which is our biggest category of spend by quite some distance. So this is where we appoint a main contractor to a site. We then get them to source their supply chain as locally as possible. And there's a list there of, so there's 204 local contractors that have been used in the supply chain there in the last year, off the back of our tier 1 contracts. For example, we've just let a £40 million construction contract, and there's all sorts of secondary services that are required by that contractor, that we're encouraging them to find local suppliers and bring in wherever they can. So accessing opportunities. So all of our procurement activities on londontenders.org. It's not just our site. There's 2/3 of London boroughs use the site, as well as hundreds of local authorities, fire services, NHS trusts nationally. Registrations and use of the system is free. You can set up notifications, so you'll get an email alert if there's something in the category that you operate in. You can set which areas of geographically you are interested in opportunities. So if you're just looking for opportunities in the southeast, or if you're looking across the whole country, you can configure your account to only notify you for what's relevant to you. We've been using that system for a number of years. There are other boroughs use other systems. It's not ideal that everyone has different ways of advertising, but that's what we're using. I'll just mention a bit about social value, a little bit more. So we stipulate our any contract over £30,000 with a term of 12 months. We have to have social value in that contract, which for smaller businesses, historically, there's been a bit of a worry, I suppose, feedback we've had of, how do we deliver social value against the bigger companies that are bidding? And actually, we've found a good setup now that gives us a balance. We have a list of things that we're aiming to achieve, and actually, what we're looking for is that you do what you can well, rather than giving us loads and loads of things that are unrealistic. So what we found, actually, the amount of social value per contract that we're gaining is slightly less, but there's more being delivered. We'd rather you do one thing and do it well with social value than promise everything and then deliver very little. That's all of my slides. Are we doing questions now, Alan, or people using Q&A? We answer them later.
Let's go through the presentations first, and then we'll do the Q&A at the end.
Okay. Well, that's me then.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Daniel. The key thing is listen up, local companies. Hounslow Council want you to register, bid, and they've got tenders ready to award to you. All you need to do is quote. Nowza, how do we get ready to quote? How do we get fit to bid?
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Daniel. We've got a number of questions which came through on the data capture form as well. So at the end of the session, we can go through them as well. Okay. So I'm just going to share my screen. I can get hold of it. Okay. Right. So a brief presentation on where we are now and what we want to do and how we want to help you to win a few more contracts. So we are delighted to be part of the Hounslow Business Support, Innovate and a Grow program. Innovation is very close to our hearts. It's what we do and what we ask our SMEs to do as well. I'm just going to. The reason I brought this slide up is to show not only the scale of the work that we do, but the fact that our business is based on partnerships and collaborations. This is the essence of our business, and there is actually a webinar which covers this, and it's going to be very important for I believe for SMEs. We say it openly to people we speak to that partner yourself out of the pandemic. Don't try to go it alone. Do something together with like-minded people, and you have a better chance of getting back to where you are. So a bit about Fit to Bid. What is Fit to Bid? Essentially, it's a business support. It's an innovative new program which helps you win more contracts. Get fit to bid, upgrade your skills, understand how a procurement works. That's what we're about here today. We have an online bid capability assessment. It's a questionnaire and a report. I have a slide on each of these. I'm just going to go through it very briefly here. Then we look at your business model. We ask you to challenge your model to see, are you ready to bid? Have you got the right products and services? Have you got your key processes in place before you bid? Then we've got some leading world-class bidding skills in workshops, followed by a tender advice, which we're not sure we're going to do it in this pilot with Hounslow. We will do it hopefully when the program takes off again in September, October. But there's lots to do, lots to talk about. And so let me sort of move on now. We're here today. Many thanks, Daniel, for coming on board. Daniel, you didn't introduce yourself, so I'm just going to say you are the head procurement chief in Hounslow Council.
Senior procurement manager, that's my title.
Senior
yeah.
Oh, thank you, Daniel. Okay, Daniel's covered most of the bullet points on the left, but I just want to stress one point on the graphic that councils are not faceless, people. They are real people. They are in a decision-making sort of a unit. You might have to speak to more than one a person, but in general, we find that when you approach, people from a people point of view, people tend to help you. So I would recommend that you do your research, speak to key people, and keep the conversation going. People are helpful. They will guide you. They will, signpost you and give you a support tools as well. So that's the key point of this slide. The council is not a faceless entity. It's a thriving, live sort of people who are there to help you. Okay. We talked about the business model. What we want to do is for you to challenge your business to see, are you ready to bid? Are you ready for the new normal? Are you ready to come out of the pandemic? Things have changed. Customers have moved on. Your product services might need to change. Can you question your business model from four sort of viewpoints? Desirability, do customers want it? Feasibility, can you deliver it? Viability, can you make money from it? And adaptability, can you sort of manage to survive based on a competitive sort of approach, external factors. For that, we're looking at 3 key workshops. We have a business model one, which I will be presenting along with my colleague Elsa, who's on the call here today as well. Then I'll be doing a value proposition design with another colleague and developing key partnerships. So you're going to hear a bit from me. It's important to understand that before each workshop, we will send you a template. So these are not, I mean, death by PowerPoint, as we say. We will send you a template, and I will speak for mostly 15 or 20 minutes of the workshop, and you will be working hard on your business model. That's the plan. Okay. Developing key partnerships, maybe as I did mention earlier, for SMEs who want to consider partnering or bidding together to win larger contracts, or even to win a small contract first if you don't have the skills yourself, but you've got the knowledge and you need to partner with somebody. Bidding skills, 2 online workshops. This is the core of the program, and it essentially covers. It might take you actually more than an hour each. We'll talk to Hounslow Chamber about that. It's usually about 1 hour, 15 minutes to an hour and a half, and it essentially it's hard work. In a sense, it forces you to learn. But it's great to learn, because if you attend these 2 workshops, you will go a long way in building much better bids. So I would urge you to register when the links essentially come out soon. Okay, right. Presenting to win in a business. A part of our skills, that's Jez Ray, and he is one of our key advisors. And he essentially is, he's even had a cameo in Carnegie Hall in the US. He's an ex, DJ, he's an ex, banker. He's great with people and presenting sort of skills. These 4 sort of, images you see of him, essentially saying basically, try and keep quiet when you have to, try and smile or look at facial expressions, look at people and then act, etc. I personally learn a lot whenever I attend his sessions. I would urge you to do that as well. So this is the way we'll end these sort of webinars, helping you with your Zoom skills, with your presentation skills, with your face-to-face selling skills. Okay. A bid capability, we will send you a questionnaire, which will likely take you up to 8-10 minutes, but it's an online sort of a diagnostic. It's totally confidential. We get the report and we get the data in a spreadsheet. We will then help you. We will then send you an individual report, which will help you identify key gaps, get you in a bid ready. We also do some help. We'll also help you with understanding your financials, etc. That's a link. It will be sent to you with the next lot of invitations. So this is an integral sort of part of our fit to bid offer, and we would urge you to take the time out and fill in the questionnaire if you want to get ready to bid for contracts with Hounslow Council, with Tier 1 and with Tier 2 suppliers. Okay. I know that Firoz is going to spend a lot more time here, but this was sent to us yesterday by Kate, who you just heard. And apparently Heathrow has come back. Last year it was a difficult sort of period. It's now come back, and this is straight hot off the press. So they are looking to work with SMEs, and that's a link. If you go on a Heathrow website and just type in "doing business," you'll see a lot more tools, etc. Okay, the opportunities themselves are not advertised on the Heathrow portal, but the links are there for you to register and get hold of them. But I'll leave that to Firoz. Okay. So that's the schedule. We're here today on the 18th of May. Then we've got next week, bang, bang, bang. Every week we've got something happening. Canvas, the value proposition. Then we've got the 2 bid skills. And to take us through the end of June, we've got the circular economy. That's a new word there. The circular economy, keep it local, etc., is something we'll be talking about. And how do you develop key partnerships to be able to take advantage of that? And on the 20th of June is the presenting to win one. Okay, so it's just a few testimonials. Do come on our programs. We've had a great success with with Ealing last year. We were going to do a lot more with Heathrow, but as we know, Heathrow had a difficult a period. It's now back. We will do a lot more with Heathrow going forward. So these are real people, real testimonials, and some of the work that's underway right now. We have a Hillingdon program for the construction supply chain. We've done something in Brent, very special for adults in social care. We've trained about 50 adult social care providers in advance of a £2 million home care tender. And in Park Royal, we've got a hybrid of our Gold Mapper and our Fit to Bid one as well. Daniel touched on social value. Just coincidentally, we realized the importance of it as well. And I would urge you to go to this website called tussle.com and download a free guide. It's an ebook called SME's Guide to Doing Business with the Public Sector. It's got some great stuff in it. It's very well written, easy to understand. And in conjunction with what we're doing in terms of Fit to Bid, it's a great tool to help you to get to where you want to go to. Examples of how an SME could demonstrate social value: environmental, employment, looking at disadvantaged people, hard to reach communities, voluntary, social center, and social enterprise. Again, a lot of this, or some of this, we'll be covering in our business model as well. And as a company, we try and help. We work with local authorities. We offer you a free email and telephone support for the duration of the program. We work very closely with local communities. We work with employment hubs. We engage with them. And we are very proud to say, a very diverse and inclusive approach to our membership and to our clients. Okay. So to end, again, essentially there is light at the end of the tunnel. We are getting out of the lockdown. We're almost out, hopefully, keep our fingers crossed. And the key tasks, are to, we were in a bubble, literally most of us were. We were in a complacent, we had to step back for many reasons, financial reasons, for health reasons. But now it's time to get a bit more proactive, invest in yourself, as we say, and your key processes. Innovate, do something a bit different. If we think we're going to do the same things we did 2 years back and expect the same results, that's going to be a bit more difficult. So look at doing something a bit different, whether it's doing it yourself or partnering. And hopefully that results in winning a few more contracts. So as part of the Innovate and Grow program, I'm just bringing this slide up again. Please put it in your diaries. We will be sending out a copy of the slides to everybody who's registered, so you'll have this. And Alan and Lisa and Sally will be in touch with you with a new broadcast email with the dates of all the workshops again. So on that note, I hand back to you, Alan. Okay, many thanks.
Thank you very much, Nauza. What a comprehensive presentation. Thank you. Now we're moving on to the big beast himself. No, it's not Feroz Ghazi, it's Heathrow Airport Limited. How on earth do you contract with an entity so big? It must be very difficult to obtain tier 1 or tier 2 supplier status for a small company. So our recommendation is talk to a man who knows all about it. Talk to Feroz Ghazi, who is a tier 1 and tier 2 supplier to Heathrow. Used to work at Heathrow, knows all about the industry that's going on there, and be part of his supply chain. Feroz, over to you. Tell us all about it.
Thank you, Alan. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for inviting me for this wonderful event. Hopefully, I will be able to share some knowledge where our business partners, the SMEs in West London, Hounslow Chamber of Commerce, can be benefited out of this project that Hounslow Chamber of Commerce initiated in partnership with Hounslow Council and the bid for bidding process as well. So my name is Feroz Ghazi. I'm the Managing Director of CLS, which is Consolidated Logistics Service Limited. My background, as Ellen briefly mentioned, that I worked for Heathrow Airport when it was under BAA, British Airport Authority, then it became Heathrow Airport Limited, which is HAL. Also, during my employment time, I worked on other airports like Gatwick Airport Limited, Gatwick Airport, Stansted City, Luton. So a number of other airports, just to outline the experience. But I'm still working at the Heathrow Airport area because we're now supplied to the airport, where we're now more involved, if you like, to support the tier 1, tier 2 level of services. So today, I'd like to outline and share some of my experience as a service provider to the airport, which is, as Ellen said, is a very big economy for us as a community around here, but also is a big economy to the country as a whole, and it plays a big role for the nation and globally. So in terms of procurement ready, I'm not doing any presentation today. Hopefully in the next session, we'll bring up some key notes based on the Q&A session, what the audience would like to see. But the key message here is that the process working in the aviation sector, not just Heathrow, any other aviation sector, are quite similar. In terms of procurement, there are some standard rules and guidance, as Daniel Austin said as well, within Hounslow Council. So those principles applies to Heathrow as well. So Heathrow as an economy has different level and different type of opportunities. So airport itself, so that is Heathrow Airport Limited, who are the landlord and the business entity. But also you have the other stakeholders like airlines, you have the retailers, you have the surrounding associate services supporting the airlines and the retail industries. Then you have the construction work, the development, the maintenance. So there's varieties of opportunities here in one place. It's like a city within a city where you can do business to any level, whether it's a small, micro, medium, large. Some of the global industries, global organizations, they are part ownership to the airport as a whole. So I think the process here is not easy, it's complex, because it has the operation within airside, within landside. What it means that when you're working landside, it also applies to your airside rules, regulations, and procedures. When you're airside, it applies more rules, regulations, and procedures as far as the Department of Transport concerns, as far as civil aviation authorities are concerned, and the individual organizations who are tier 1, tier 2 level businesses. So they also have to obey those rules, regulations, and procedures. So to get access for micro-sized business or SMEs into these industries, so you can look at, as I mentioned earlier, that you can target your retail sector where you may find opportunities for delivery function, for manpower, more for the actual logistics function to bring the goods from A to B. So bring the goods from anywhere from the country and bring it to the shop floor level. And also the retailers may need some of the maintenance work, because the local maintenance work can be done by the retail chain framework contractors. So you could become one of their preferred suppliers to do that as a local company. To get into those level of business, it's just making contact with the retailers that you're one of these local supply, you have the capability, and you'd like to submit your proposal. Excuse me. The process is far simpler than going into tier 1 level, if you like. Then you have airlines. They also require support in all level. They could be looking at company doing their cargo handling. They could be looking at company doing the catering services, the manpower, temporary staff requirements. They could be looking at training services, the consultancy services, And also they need company who can do the logistics, distribution, collecting goods and delivery goods to the airport. And again, the airlines also require their airport facilities to be maintained, which is not something that airport authority will do. In anything inside their facilities is down to the individual tenants to maintain their facilities safely. Now, when it comes to airport authority, Heathrow Airport Limited as a whole, they have lots of opportunities on tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 level. And these opportunities are, obviously has different value, different compliances, and different timeline. As airport is opening up more, Heathrow is already awarding a number of contracts through their tier 1 supply chain on the development sector as well as on the operational sector. So development sector is mainly where airport carry out a number of expansion work. So it's not just that runway, there are many other work that they do on an annual basis. They have budget to look after their asset maintenance work. They have budget to upgrade their system to make it fully compliant, the high standard that aviation industry can ever maintain to be the #1 airport in the world. And they follow those standard. And to do that, they spend lots of money on Heathrow. So this work could be a package which is given to a tier 1. There are 4 DIs, and these DIs are development integrators, company like Mace, Balfour Beatty, Morgan Schindler, Ferrovial. Yes, the work has reduced due to the pandemic, but it is picking up again slowly as government giving more and more support to the airport and working together with the airport authority to ease up things. Passengers are getting more confidence and airlines are getting more confidence. And so the retailers getting more support. I'm working very closely with all of these sectors. I can see the progress. So the work within the tier 1, tier 2 level, yes, it does require the ground handling license. It does require some of the insurance, very costly insurance cover, because you're in an area where high value assets are there. Hitting an aircraft requires some insurance cover. So the airport ground handling department, they're making sure that anybody's coming in has that kind of cover and knowledge and support, whether through tier 1 or working as a tier 3 to tier 2 level. But the way airport works, they are trying to break it down to the sizable business so that the local SME can actually get access to the local business. And I'm one of the example that I'm also classed as that. So I can't deny that they do, and I can say loud that that's how they are trying to promote the support the local businesses and local SMEs to work in the airport level. So obviously the work has to go through the tendering process for Heathrow, because that's their system. They obviously tender it through the DIs on the development sector, and from DIs tier 1 to tier 2 level, yes, another process of tendering. So it breaks it down to different pieces. So in construction side, you'll have breakdown of packages for M&E, mechanical, electrical. It could be logistics. It could be the actual construction work, the consultancy side of the element for development management, the welfare, enabling welfare setup. So all of these packages would then go out to different tier 2 contractors from the tier 1, and then tier 2 would go down to tier 3 level. That's the maximum tier level they would go to, up to the tier 2 level. So we could work as a tier 3 level, or we could work as a tier 2 level. And if you're really good, then you obviously work on a tier 1 level. But I'll come to that in a minute, how you can do that a very easy way. Not as a DI, because the value of DI packages are very high. They are, multi-billion pound projects. So development sector will be very difficult. So come to the operation sector, which is a priority for any airport. Doesn't matter what happens, the airport has to be operational. They have a set time when they can do some of the maintenance or construction or development work for upgrading the system, runway, or any other things. So the operation, what I mean by that is that they have airport terminal maintenance work where company like Mighty, company like ISS, they would do the maintenance work, and that's operation. So this comes priority. They have to make sure these companies are looking after all the things that is fully compliant for passenger safety. Then within that, you have other passenger services. There are companies doing wheelchair. There are companies doing buggy services to carry passengers. There are companies doing baggage handling. These are all framework contracts. These are projects that some of the big operational companies within the airport looking after that. So the local company could provide any kind of services to those tier 1 service provider or tier 3 level. And also coming back to the retailers, when you're working for the retailers directly, you class as a tier 1 supplier to the retailer because you're directly engaged with the retailers. And the package could be even from 500 to 500,000. It all depends what kind of packages the retailer is offering you based on your capabilities. And retailer can do that because they're not looking after as big as Heathrow Airport as a whole. They're only looking after their small shop within the terminal, and there are so many shops. So these are the retail area where retailer always looking for companies who can save costs. Same with the airlines, they're looking for companies who can save costs. This is how they make their money by saving cost, but quality service. Now, also, obviously, there are some other maintenance service provider for operational services, the fire alarm system, within the airport, there are companies who provide that. And then there are companies who are doing the material distributions within the airport. One of which is Heathrow Airport. There's a company like DHL, they provide a lot of services. So, as a whole, Heathrow has varieties of different opportunities on a different level with a different value structured. And obviously, right now, we are aware the pandemic has caused a lot of, disruption and constraints to the operation within airport level and travel and tour industry. However, it also created a lot of opportunities to facilitate some of the services that we've never done. For example, we had to go and do some of the sanitization for the airports, to do some of the safety fogging system just to sanitize the working area. These are new.
Rose, would you say that the airport is now coming back to life and there's a lot more preparatory work being done there to open it up in the view that more people will be flying later this year and passenger numbers will pick up dramatically next year?
Sure, thank you, Alan. So the airport is constantly upgrading and monitoring the passenger flow, the experience they're having from red, amber zone country. They're looking at opening up more terminals to manage some of the, red countries, if you like, so that they can segregate them, through another terminal, for example, so that they're fully segregated, but it all costs. It does require a lot of support from the government, so we have our local MP who deals with that level of communication with the CEO of the airport. So as far as the business is concerned, yes, more passengers are now coming in than before, 2020. More airlines are coming in, and more retailers are opening. So Terminal 3 is trying to reopen. They had a plan to reopen and by end of June. So they're still under discussion. I've seen some of the email that they are, communicating with the retailers, especially the, retailers like Boots, WH Smith, World Duty Free, not luxury item retail units, but more, needy and passenger, a necessary item where they can pick up things and fly. But yes, there are more.
Feroz, maybe we could move into the Q&A session, as we've got 10 minutes to go at the end of this. I'd like to thank you very, very much for your presentation and your comments this morning, which are excellent. There's the first question Daniel has already answered. Well done, Daniel. Thank you very much for being sharp and seeing that coming from Ash. The question next from Eddie Azur is for yourself, Feroz. And Eddie asks, is there a site that we can bid for Heathrow contracts, i.e. like London tenders, or that Daniel mentioned for Hounslow Council?
Yes, there is a tender link which is on Hounslow Chamber of Commerce website. The Heathrow Airport, they do a lot of tender on that portal. However, there isn't a lot at the moment. The tenders for tier 1 to tier level, those tenders are going through a different portal, but Heathrow Airport will be sharing that link with us hopefully very soon. I'm in touch with some of the procurement teams, so I will share that with Hounslow Chamber of Commerce so that people can get access to that. And also, they can come to us directly, and we can direct them, with some of the retailers to, by understanding what sector is really good for them. So if somebody wants to go into catering sector that's not Heathrow Airport themselves, that would be one of the airline service providers, so we can direct them to the industry where they should be knocking their door. So it's just pointing them at the right direction, because it's not, very simple working in the aviation sector, because, there are so many different aspects of the businesses here. So we just need to support them in the right way.
So just to answer all of Eddie's questions, I spotted that there's a question from him on the registration form, and he asks, how do I secure contracts with food, beverage, furniture, cargo companies? I guess you've gone through a bit of that. Would you like to add anything more?
So food, beverage, and logistics sector. So if we're looking at logistics as cargo logistics, that's the different services altogether. If logistics as a distribution, that's a different service altogether. So let's say Eddie meant logistics as distribution for the catering company, if you like. That requires a different kind of ground operation license in order for them to become a catering known supplier status. So you basically be audited by the airport authority to become a known supplier in order for you to distribute that kind of services. There is a DFT procedure for that. Happy to discuss if that's what Eddie meant.
Okay, so Eddie's pinged a little message into the Q&A session while we've been talking, and you've been answering that for him. He's now asking for your contact details, so you could perhaps take that a little bit more offline and develop that dialogue directly with him. Another question's come in from Paul Verdi. How do we contact, or who do we contact in regarding to building maintenance at the airport?
So there are a number of different companies at the airport doing maintenance work. So to provide maintenance services, Again, you've got to go through either as a tier 3 level or tier 2 level. So the companies there are Mighty working directly for Heathrow Airport. There are company working directly with the airlines level, and also we as a company provide maintenance work directly for all of those above. Now, the issue with the airport maintenance company, obviously they need airport passes, they need airport licenses, airport insurance. So hopefully, if Paul touch base with us, we can definitely guide them through that process, and he will be able to understand how that process works, the system works. It's not like outside where you have your accreditation for COGI certificate and you can deal with gas or plumbing work. Airport has its own rules, regulations, and procedures for you to touch any of the live system.
Okay. Well, would you like to type your contact details for us in the Q&A box for Eddie, and then he'll be able to get in touch with you. Daniel,
Sure.
you're doing quite well this morning. You've got a peaceful morning. What's going on?
Yeah, this is nice. I normally get a lot of questions at these events.
There is a question. There is a question here for Daniel in the which essentially came in through the data capture. It says here, Daniel, it's from Taiwan Travel, Anthony Lian, and he asks how to find bid opportunities from the government in the tourism sector.
So there is a site called Contracts Finder, where all public sector contracts need to be advertised if they're being openly advertised. So, for example, for us that would be over £75,000, but then all awards of contracts go on there as well. Central government advertise on there from £10,000 upwards. So there's a lot. I'll be honest, it's not a great website. It's quite hard to navigate, but you can search for keywords and hopefully you'll find something relevant for you on there.
I can add a little bit onto that, and we've talked about the council in Nauza's presentation, that the council are people who are approachable. I can tell you from first-hand knowledge that to coin the phrase, they're nice people to do business with, is actually a big understatement. They're incredibly helpful. You ask questions from them, you get answers very, very quickly. And both Branduin and Hounslow Chamber of Commerce are very happy to be a conduit for anybody's questions at a later date that would like to be floated into Daniel, any of his team. And they're very transparent, very good people to do business with, and I'd encourage you all to increasingly work harder to get this 3% up to 7%, get it up to 14% of Hounslow money going into doing business with Hounslow Council. I want to see what one of these Hounslow pound notes looks like. Anyway. So Nauza, the time is 10:58. Would you like to make some closing comments?
Yes, and thank you all. Thank you, Firoz and Daniel as well. We are once again, just to reiterate, we are extremely proud and delighted to be here with you to help support Hounslow businesses to get back to reboot, recover, and grow once again. It's going to be over a period of time, 6 to 9 months, we believe, when things start to look a lot better from a business point of view. But we are here to help. Attend our webinars. They're not just lectures. They are business sprints. We get you to work. We get you to work on your model. We get you to work on your bid skills, and they are very, very interactive. Any further information you need from us or from the chamber, you have our email addresses. You will have them, and we look forward to seeing you at the webinars. Many thanks to you, Alan, and the team. Many thanks to you, Lisa, as well. Thank you very much.
So just to finish off, I can say that if anybody would like to see a video, a recording of this webinar, it's going to be available on the YouTube website for Hounslow Chamber, and that'll be available later today. So it'll be there for posterity. Daniel, thank you very much for your comments and looking to engage with Hounslow Council. I would recommend it. For Rose, Heathrow Airport is more difficult to engage with, but you provide an excellent route of getting through those hurdles. Thank you all very much for attending this morning. We look forward to doing lots more business in Hounslow. Thank you.